So I was born in June of 1952, and I have two sisters, and of course both my parents are not alive anymore, but so I was raised in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is in the Midwest and along Lake Michigan, which is one of the Great Lakes in the Midwest. And it was a small town, and my sisters and I were each 11 months apart. So we were born in May, June, and July. And so so we're very close. And then my father, he passed away when I was 5 years old. And so it was my sisters and my mom the rest of the time growing up. And my youth was we had a real close family, and also our neighborhood was an Italian neighborhood. So because of that, people were very close and very touching, and a lot of good feeling, and it was fun. I remember just having a really, fun childhood. I was in terms of athletics, I did basketball and baseball and that, but I wasn't very good, and I didn't stand out anyway. And then when I went to high school, I became a wrestler and found out that I was very good at wrestling. So I went through high school, and then and during that time, when I became, I think, 13 is when I started martial arts. And so I still wrestled, but I also started karate, and then I was, so I was 13, and I continued karate along with Aikido until I was almost 40 years old. And I started karate when I was in high school, and then when I went away to college, I ended up starting having a karate dojo, but it wasn't a dojo. It was like a group, like a club at a gymnasium in college. And I went to college in Wisconsin, and it was in Madison, Wisconsin, and it was during the time of the Vietnam War. And so college was a lot of protests and that, but it was a good place to go to school. And then I had quite a few students, because I used the university gymnasium, and so people would come and train. And then one of my students started to take Aikido. He met Takuchi Sensei at a bar. And asked him if he studied martial arts, because he was Japanese, and then Takuchi Sensei said, yes, I teach Aikido. So he started, and then he told me about Aikido and said, you should come sometime to see it. And I had heard of Aikido, but I didn't know much about it. So I went to the YWCA. It was a young Women's Christian Association was the name of the building, and I went and watched the class. And he's maybe my size, so not a big person, but his students were very big and much taller than he was, and he would throw them around so easily, and it was just wonderful to watch. But I thought, oh, as a karateka, that I could probably, most likely hit him. I could, if I was invited ever to maybe confront each other. And then and I watched in a very formal manner. I sat kneeling and watched and was very attentive. And then afterwards, he came up to me and asked me what I thought. And I said, well, an interesting art. Meaning, I didn't think it was very effective, and you could tell that, was like, oh. So he invites me to come out and hit him, come out on the mat and try to hit him. And I thought, wow, what a gift. You know, that would be really, I know I could hit him. And so we pair up and I go to hit him. And he just, next thing you know, I'm on the floor, you know, like, wow. And so I was really puzzled, so I try again, and this time I didn't hit. I kicked, went to kick, and same thing. Like it was just one and that was gone. And then, so I tried 3 times, and third time, same thing. And I dust myself off, and then I said, when are your classes? And that's how I started. I was 20 years old. And the beauty of it was, as a karateka, I knew how to hurt people. But I didn't know how to just get out of the way and maybe they fall down or they don't hurt themselves. And that's what he did for me. He didn't hurt me. I just couldn't hit him. And not only did he not hurt me, but I fell, I lost my balance, and I could fall, so I was lucky, but there are no injuries. And that's what I wanted. I wanted alternatives to conflict in terms of, oh, I can do other things than block and punch and kick and mix it up, but I could also like just move off the line and everything would be fine. Blending. And so that was my attraction. But I still liked karate and the hard hitting and just being young. So I tried to do both, and for quite a long time. And then Takuchi Sensei, he finished school because he was in the School of Pharmacy, and then he moved on to Washington, D.C., and I had one more year of college, so I stayed in Madison. And then there was 7 of us that were part of his group, and we stayed training, and we 4 of us traded off teaching and hoping after just 1 year of Aikido. So, and that's even to this day, the group there is still going after all this time. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. And the difference in age between myself and Takaguchi Sensei was 9 years. And so he was my teacher, but also we got to be friends. My karate teacher was much older, you know. I was maybe, when I was 13, he was maybe in his 50s. When I was going to college, he was in his 60s, so he was definitely my sensei, and nothing more, nothing more and nothing less, but my sensei. And Takuchi Sensei was my sensei, but also Clyde, my friend, and then also my mentor, and yeah. So that's how things started. And then when my year was finished, when I finished college, I actually left, and I took a test too. We all took tests to see what rank we might be when Clyde moved to Washington, D.C. And 7 of us took tests, and some people got second Q already after 1 year because they had a judo background, and some people got, like 4th and 3rd, and I got the lowest of everybody. I got 5th Q at the time, and the reason I found out later is because I told Akira Toei Sensei, who was the teacher that came up from Chicago. He tested us with Takaguchi Sensei. He did not like for people to leave. He wanted people to stay and be in the town, and I made it real clear when I graduated from college I was going to travel around the world, and so I would leave Madison, and then who knows where I would be. And so he didn't like that, so he said he just gave me a very low rank so that because I wasn't going to do what he would like me to do, you know. So I graduated and I went around the world for maybe a year and a half, almost 2 years, and then I came back. But when I came back, I decided I wanted to study more Aikido, and I wanted to be with Takuchi Sensei. So I came back, and by then he had moved to South Carolina, so I moved there too. And then we lived together and bought a house together and had a dojo in the back of the house, and I became his like his uchideshi, and we lived together for 3 years there. And I trained and traveled with him, because he traveled lots of places on the East Coast, and so I would travel with him as his otomo. My job was to take care of him and to full-sakuma all the time, and take ukemi if he wanted me to, and just be ready to be there. And but also that was when we were doing Aikido. But then when we would be fishing or running or doing lots of other things, then we were friends, you know. So it was kind of a nice relationship. And he was 4th Dan at that time, so he was 4th degree black belt when he left. He was from Hawaii, so Takuchi Sensei was from Hawaii, and he moved to. So he lived on the Big Island, and then he ended up being with Nonaka Sensei, and then then he moved to Oahu, and was on that island, and in Honolulu with Yoshioka Sensei. And Yoshioka Sensei was with Aikikai, and so was Nonaka Sensei. But then there was when Koji Toi Sensei split from Homui Dojo, then people had to decide what their choice would be in terms of organizations. So Clyde decided to stay with Aikikai. And then Akira Tohei was there, and he was head of the Midwest Aikido Federation. So Uzumata Sensei was head of USAF, United States Aikido Federation, but also East Coast. And then Kanai Sensei was also East Coast. And then Akira Tohei Sensei was Midwest, and West Coast was Chiba Sensei. And that's how it was divided. So Akira Tohei Sensei came up and tested us. And so that's how, you know, all that happened. And then Clyde moved to South Carolina and was still Yondan, and then I was very slowly going up in rank, and then after 3 years, then Clyde moved back to DC, Takuchi Sensei moved back to DC, and I moved to Vermont and went to graduate school in Vermont, and then started a dojo there with Terry Dobson's student, John Lippincott. So John and I were both, first Q, and we both started a dojo together. And then we had that dojo, and then Terry would come up and visit, and then Takeuchi Sensei would come up and visit, and so it was very nice. And then because I lived near Canada, I also got a chance to train with and to teach with Mary Heine Sensei. So then sometimes there would be Mary Heine Sensei and Clyde Taguchi Sensei, and then also Terry Dobson Sensei, and then myself. And then they were all 5th Dan by then, and I was Nidan. And so then we ended up, I think maybe it was just Shodan. Yeah, it must have been Shodan. I think I Nidan. From there, when I left Vermont, I moved to Oregon, and Oregon is in the West Coast. So I went clear across the country, and I didn't know that East Coast Aikido and West Coast Aikido is a little different, and meaning that East Coast Aikido was more power and just strength and throwing very hard, and not that West Coast wasn't, but West Coast also was a little bit more flowing and a little bit more movement and just beautiful technique. And so but I moved to Ashland, Oregon, and I was just by myself, so I started another dojo. And then I happened to read in the magazine that Susan Perry had put out with her husband,
last name was Ruben. I'll never forget his first name, but they had Aikido Today magazine,
and so I would get that, and I saw there was a summer camp that Duran Sensei had, and Nado Sensei, and then also Terry Dobson Sensei, and so those, and Bill Witt Sensei. So I went there for the week, and that's where I experienced all the teachers plus others, and I already knew Terry because of Vermont, but I had never met Duran Sensei and never Nado Sensei or Witt Sensei. So then I ended up meeting them at the retreat, and that's where Duran Sensei and I really seemed to click and kind of gravitated to each other. And then Duran Sensei used Mifuke a lot with his students during this retreat. And so, and then afterwards he asked me more about myself and knew where I trained and everything, and who my teacher was. And then he knew of Clyde Takaguchi Sensei, so he said, since you were on the West Coast and you don't have a teacher here, I can, if you want, I could be your teacher. And I said, yeah, sure, that'd be great. And then I just said, first though, I have to let me talk to Takaguchi Sensei because he's my teacher too. And so Duran Sensei says, well, we could share you and both of us be your teacher, and that's what happened. So then I was with Clyde Takaguchi Sensei, but also with Duran Sensei, and then Duran Sensei ended up giving me my Nidan. I tested for Nidan soon after that, and he gave me my Nidan, and then Takaguchi Sensei said, yeah, you should get your ranks from Duran Sensei because he's directly affiliated with, has a direct connection to Hombu Dojo, and I don't. And so that's when I stayed with Sensei. And then after taking my test, that's when both Bill Witt Sensei and Bruce Klickstein Sensei said that they liked my test, so they said that if I wanted, they could make a recommendation for me to be a Uchideshi in Iwama and go to Japan. And I was very much interested in weapons that Saito Sensei was doing, so I wanted to I was thinking hard about that. But some things are difficult when Uchideshi is helpful when you're younger, and you're new at Aikido, and you don't have many ideas about Aikido, and then that person helps you grow and develop. And I had that experience already with Takaguchi Sensei, no one really does it a second time, but I did, yeah. And so and I was higher ranked, and I had beginnings of my own style, my own ideas, and so it was a little bit more challenging to be a Uchideshi the second time. And so then I went to Japan and stayed for a year and a half and studied, and was with Saito Sensei, and I learned weapons and his taijutsu. But when I left, both Clyde Takaguchi Sensei and Duran Sensei said that when I come back, that I would always be their student. And so when I came back, I was still part of the California Aikido Association and stayed with them. And then all my other ranks, I didn't receive any rank from Saito Sensei, so all my ranks since then have come from Duran Sensei. And so we've been very close ever since, and Taguchi Sensei and I are still very close, and we teach together, and so it's a good fit for the three of us. Duran Sensei and Nado Sensei and Wit Sensei got together. They started a dojo in Turk Street, which was in San Francisco. And the three of them had classes on different days, and all three are different styles. And Bill Witt Sensei was with Saito Sensei, and so that style of Aikido was different than what Duran Sensei was doing, and is different than what Nado Sensei was doing. And both Nado Sensei had been with O-Sensei for about 3 years, lived in Japan, and was with O-Sensei and had interpreters, and so he had that experience. Duran Sensei had started in California, and he was a Marine, and retired as a Marine Corps, but not retired, but is still, always once a Marine, always a Marine. So, but he studied in California, and mostly with Toei Sensei, Koichi Toei Sensei, and then, but he did go to Japan to meet O-Sensei, and then also study with O-Sensei, but only for like 1 week, and then came back, and of course the Wit Sensei had been with Saito Sensei, and so they decided to have a direct relationship with Hombu Dojo as opposed to going with United States Aikido Federation, USAF, and so they developed, they named it the Northern California Aikido Association, because San Francisco and Redwood City area is in Northern California. And then they started that, and each of them had a group. So Duran Sensei had what he called as a division. So he had Division 2, and Nado Sensei had Division 3, and then Bill Witt had Division 1. And then and people could come into the CAA under one of these three people, and you could join. And then they had many dojos that joined different divisions, and so and they had, like I said, a direct relationship with Hombu Dojo, so they didn't have to ask permission to rank people and then send it to an organization in the States, who then in turn would send it to Hombu Dojo. But they could directly send applications to Hombu Dojo and then receive rank that way. And so that went on for a period of time, and then they changed the name because it was growing and becoming more international. So instead of making it the Northern California Association, they wanted to call it something different. But Hombu Dojo didn't want them to change the name, so they decided to change the name, but just to take away Northern. So then they made it the California Aikido Association, the CAA. And so that happened. And then, I was already a member of the NCAA, Northern California Aikido Association, and then just changed the name to that. And then we had a president, let's see, at that time, we had a president and then also administrator. And then there was Duran Sensei and Wit Sensei and Nado Sensei that were the three division heads. And then and then from there, as things changed, then Bill Witt moved on and started his own organization, and so Pat Hendricks took over for Division 1 for Bill Witt. And Pat Hendricks Sensei had studied with Bruce Klickstein Sensei, but she had been a Uchideshi several times or lived in Japan for several times with Saito Sensei, at one point for a 2-year period, and other times for anywhere from 3 months to a year. But he went back many times and speaks very, very good Japanese and writes Japanese and everything. And so she ended up being the person that took over for Bill Witt Sensei when he left and took over Division 1. And then but she had quite a lot of experience. So people she was highest ranked in that division, so she took over. And then it stayed like that for a long time, and just recently, maybe 10 years ago, Duran Sensei decides to retire from the division head position, which is Division 2, and so he has an election. Instead of naming somebody, he he sent out a letter to his 6th and 7th dans in his division and said that they would be able to vote for one of 3 different people for them to decide who would be the division head, because the change of leadership in Division 2 would most significantly affect high-ranking people as opposed to lower rank, because you at a higher rank were more involved politically. And so the 3 people were Cindy Hashi Sensei, who was with Duran Sensei at his dojo, and then myself, who had a dojo in Oregon, Ashland, Oregon, and I had also been a previous president of the California Aikido Association, and Cindy was the administrator for the California Aikido Association, and then another high-ranking person. We were all 7th dans, and that would be Frank McGurk Sensei. So Duran Sensei took his top 3 7th dans and said, you will choose among those 3. And there were, I think, 16 people voted at that point in time. And so they voted, and then Sensei said, I'll announce when it happened. And the vote had to be in January, and then people voted, and then Sensei called me and said that I am the division head. And so then we changed roles in February at a meeting in February in Redwood City, and then we had a little ceremony, and I became the division head. And it was in 2016, I believe. Yeah, January or February of 2016. And so the CA is still running, and so it's Pat Hendricks now for Division 1, and myself for Division 2, and then Nado Sensei for Division 3. And so it's, and again, we each have, right now we have, I think, actively we have, I think, over 100 dojos between the 3 of us. And so we manage those dojos underneath us and help them with administrative things and also guidelines for teaching and technical responsibilities regarding techniques and everything. And then we go back to Hombu Dojo on a regular basis, and we have a very good relationship with them as well. And then what we're trying to do now is also train with other organizations too, so that we're Aikido is we're trying to make connections and find more harmony instead of separateness in organizations. But we have the common denominator of Aikido. We all enjoy this art and have a passion for this art and a love for this art. And so why not train with others besides just people in your organization? So that's what I think our generation is doing much better now than in past generations, because it used to be very separate, and now more people are saying, yeah, we can train together and enjoy each other and share and accept each other. Even if we have differences, we have more similarities than we do differences, and that's important. In 2019, Doshu came in and celebrated, and so we're the longest running non-Japanese organization with Hombu Dojo, and so we organized a long time ago. Yeah. And so that was pretty cool. We had Doshu out, and we had 800 people that attended the seminar. And it was in San Mateo, and so it was a year-long planning in order for Doshu to come out, and then he stayed for 2 weeks and went around to different places in California and trained, and had a 4-day seminar with him in San Mateo, and it was very very exciting for all of us. Yeah. I think Aikido is very unique. It's sort of, it's developed by O-Sensei, who's Japanese and Japanese martial art. But O-Sensei was very open to wanting to spread Aikido throughout the world. He felt it was a very meaningful art for people to study.
And his idea was you need to polish yourself, and in polishing yourself you become a better human being. And in that way, it is to make a better world, because we're each trying to become better humans and to help each other and to have compassion and harmony is in Aikido. The first kanji is love and harmony in and so that is really important that we kind of figure that out, that we can live side by side, or we can be connected in ways that we cross over, but we try to figure out ways of resolving conflict in a more peaceful way than using violence. And so it's quite challenging. The philosophy is beautiful. It's quite challenging to put into practice. So for me, I look at the dojo as being your like a laboratory where you take techniques, where you learn how to blend and to have people in your personal space and to feel anxious and some anxiety and different things, and how do you blend and execute a technique in a way that people are not injured, and yet they're completely off balance, and you have the ability to injure, of course, but you make that choice not to, and to make it safe for both the person that's engaging as the attacker and also for the person that's doing the technique. And then the biggest challenge, though, is taking those ideas of centering, of breathing, of grounding, of expansion, of channeling energy, and doing all this and taking it from the dojo into the real world. And how do we best do that? And that's where every one of us is a little bit different, how we would translate that. And so I think a job of teachers is to, and people in leadership, is to help people figure this out. So how do I not only become a better person for myself, but then walk the world in a way that people look at you and go like, wow, I would like to be like that. And how do you Gandhi says you change the world by first starting with yourself and who you are, and not try to take on this, take it on as a big thing, but just it's small steps, and that's what that I think is Sensei's dream, is that we end up taking Aikido and sharing it with people and slowly change the world and make it a better place. And I think for myself, I look at, when I bow into the picture of Sensei, I feel like he feels good at where Aikido is, and how it's continuing, and how people are excited about it, and more people are coming in, and we're spreading it throughout the world, not only in Japan or the United States, but Europe and in China, Thailand, and all over South America, and every place you find that there's some place where you can do Aikido. And the one thing about Aikido is that you have a community. You have a community of people that are doing the same thing. It may not look the same, be a little different in terms of interpretations based on teachers and culture and that, but we build this community that's worldwide, and that's really unique. And then we have the support of people because we're not alone. And I think it became very evident that with COVID, because COVID we couldn't interact with people and we couldn't travel and all that, but we had Zoom, that platform, and FaceTime and other technologies that helped us still keep in contact and actually meet new people, because they came on a class that you were doing in Zoom, and suddenly it was someone you never met, but they're like from Sao Paulo or something, and you're like, whoa, and they start talking and you develop relationships. So and even though we couldn't feel in touch, you still had that interaction and intent over a camera. And so for me, I think the tools that, and the principles that Aikido has in terms of staying relaxed and keeping an open mind and being able to move
freely and be flexible and be resilient and learn how to control your breath and how to center and how to ground and how to draw energy up for yourself and to be expansive with that energy. All that is part of what we learn, and we can share that with others to help them maybe have an easier life and a better life because of that. And so, and then for myself, being a teacher, not only am I a dojo cho, but because of my job as in a leadership position with the CA, I've been very lucky to travel and to foreign countries and to meet people like here in Brazil, where met wonderful people. My first time here, and it's just been a fabulous, not only a vacation, but just to share Aikido and have people be open-minded and try it, and to see the excitement that we both have, that all of us have in terms of we're studying Sensei's teachings, and from that we build a really strong community and a feeling that I'm there to support you as you are with me, and even if we're different nationalities, it's there and it's real tangible and you can feel it, so I think it's important to realize as Aikidoists that as you start out training, you really look at the physicality and the execution of technique, and you have ideas of getting a belt and going on and different levels of black belt and stuff. But at some point, you're there for service. You're there to take what you've learned and then share it and help people learn to also give and to help and to be ready to be there for others. And some people miss that, and it's all about them being better and better and better. But if you can take that and at some point take what you've learned and then go out and share it, then wow, what you get back is so rich, because people receive it and then thank you, and the conversation you have, and you listen to the struggles maybe people have, or you listen to the successes they're having, and it's truly remarkable. And so as I get older, one thing is, as I get older, I realize community is very important for me, because it helps support me in terms of learning about myself, and if I'm having problems, I can turn to somebody and ask for help. And not the easiest thing to do, but it certainly keeps you humble. That you know that when you need help, you have people you can call on. And so with that, it's Aikido does provide this community. And you look at one of the pillars for aging is that people that don't have community, they're very lonely, and that doesn't help as you age, because if you're by yourself, it's a hard process to age and see your body change, and sometimes your mind, and you don't have anyone to share anything with. But with this, any place you go, you can be somewhere and look up Aikido, and maybe not go and train, but just go and talk if you're not healthy or something, and people just get very excited to know if you've done Aikido for 50, 60 years. Like, wow, this is pretty cool. So anyway, I think for me, I feel like it's been such a gift to get involved in my life of being, dedicated to Aikido and yet dedicated to my family and to my friends, and I feel like my life is so full and rich because of those opportunities. For me, last thing is, wow, I have such gratitude, and every day I have such gratitude, for my teachers and for the people that have introduced me to Aikido and that are still alive. Dorin Sensei and also Takeuchi Sensei are still alive, and they're still my teachers, and it's nice to have teachers that you can talk to. And then my students have been just so supportive, and my family, I can go traveling, and it may not be easy, but sometimes it's important that I go and I get the okay, and that's nice. And then people like Fernando Sensei here, who's been just so
gracious about having me and staying at his home and sharing with his family and just those opportunities to learn about different cultures too. Because being in Brazil for a period of time, it's like I had never been to South America, so it's been very nice to experience food and people and customs and all that. So it opens up my horizons, my mind in a big way. So I just want to say that thank you. I have so much gratitude for just for how my life has been, you know, and then you know, it's not always been really like very, you know, like always, it has ups and downs like anything else, but the good times really outweigh the harder times. So I feel very lucky and very supported.
Okay, Sensei. And to close, you want to do a magic? There is cards here.
To do a magic? Yeah, I'll show him. Give me a deck of cards. I'll show you one magic effect. This is pretty cool.
What I
just give me the cards that I can now sort those out then and see if he has. Let's see. These are Fernando's son's cards. So they're trick cards. So okay. So here we have four aces. Okay, there you go. And of course it's always red and black. Two black, two red. And I'm going to take a red one and put it on the back side of a black one, like that. So we have the ace of clubs and the ace of hearts. And yeah, so I'm also a magician, which is nice. Magic is, Aikido is like magic. It's just amazing the stuff you can do with Aikido, and magic the same. And magic, when you're a magician, you watch people and just the excitement in their face and the smiles and you feel like a little kid in terms of your stomach is like, oh, this is cool, or your heart is like very big, and that's how I feel like with Aikido and magic. So here we have. So if you watch closely, and now
you had
I will do that. Yeah, I'm just setting it up. So see, so we have two aces. You know, there are the black aces, and I have nothing up my sleeves because I'm wearing short sleeves, and this is a joke, and nothing between my ears. That's just a joke. So check this out. We come here and we change it instantly to red. So it was black and now it's red, all right? And so the red comes slowly together, and just with the breath, it changes very quickly, and I'll show you one more time. Sometimes you use misdirection and you say, hey, look over there, but you're not gonna look over there. So, and there we are, and that's the aces changing right before your eyes, and at no time in this performance did my hands leave my body. They stayed there the whole time.
Nice, you say. Thank you very
So thank
much.
you, and
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.